Coming out tonight to our City Council workshop session. Tonight, we're going to talk about the operational budget. And as we move through the evening, if it's a decision of the council to go ahead and approve the tentative budget, tentative budget almost certainly will be changed as we refine the numbers and everything. So it's okay if we go ahead and approve the tentative budget with the idea that almost certainly there will be changes. In fact, there will be certainly changes to the budget as we work through the next 6 weeks, Curtis.
Yeah.
That we have to work through this. So we'll do that. Anyway, and then if time allows, I'd like to have a closed session at 6:45 before we have everybody show up. We've got a lot of school kids and everything coming tonight, and there may be some others coming for the
Stuff.
for different areas for the public hearing and that kind of thing. So anyway, council, let's start discussing the operational budget. We're going to hold off on the capital projects discussion tonight, just holding ourselves strictly to the operational part of it. There are some maybe some major things that we ought to have explained to us that so you understand. I asked Curtis if he maybe just walk us through why there's such a large transfer to the fire department fund, and maybe kind of explain what's going on there so we can understand that a little bit better. And then we'll work our way through the budget. Curtis?
Yeah, so in the fiscal year 25 budget, so the one that we're currently in, if you remember back things that were leading up to that budget, we talked about firemen going full-time. We talked about certain changes that were happening. And then we had a couple city managers leave, a little bit of chaos as we were coming in. And usually when we were balancing a fund, there's a way that you do it with governmental funds, which is you're either pulling down from your fund balance or you're adding to your fund balance. And there's a line there that goes in the budget. And I typically try to monitor that to make sure that the amount going in or going out is only operational, is only capital related, so that we're not using our savings to pay for operational costs. I blew it. This was a fund where I didn't make that identification, and so there was actually there weren't enough revenues to cover all the operational expenses, and so we had said in the budget we were going to use fund balance to pay for ongoing operational costs. I philosophically have a challenge with that because if any of you run a personal budget, you can only live off your savings for so long before something goes south. I didn't catch that one. And so last year's...
Can I say something real quick? Thanks for just owning it, by the
Yeah.
way. I really appreciate that.
I'm totally open with owning what I...
Yeah.
If I mess up, I'm going to tell you. So the operational costs in that year, what we would have needed to transfer over operationally, based off of what I can tell, would have been about another $400,000. So instead of a transfer of 358, you would imagine a transfer of 758 or 760,000 is what we would have been transferring to cover the fiscal year 25 budget. We still have a chance to correct that, by the way. We could amend the budget to make that fix. But that, you brought up last time, Blair, why is there such a big difference? The a large number of those costs were already accounted for in the previous year, so the expenses were. But that's why the transfer has to go up so much, is going from 360 to over $1 million now.
So do we have a list of, if you take that part out, say you put, there was 400,000, we have a list of what was asked on their budget, more reality of what were asked this year compared to last year without that? I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be in that packet.
It's, yeah, in your packet, if you look line by line, it
Well,
shows
it's-
last year versus this year, but
I've been through it a billion times,
they
but
didn't
it's,
ask a ton, to be quite honest.
they didn't ask for another guy, right?
Well, they're wanting to talk part-time, but that's no
Well, it's
benefits,
still,
no.
that's, part-time, one guy is still $175,000, and obviously that's not in there for this year.
Wait, what?
Is it not in there for this year?
We didn't change their wages, but
So we didn't put that.
But
I
they,
think
but
they can fit it in there in the wages they've got budgeted.
I don't see how if we're only, I don't know. It really, if you do it, and I just roughly did it, if you do one guy for $20 an hour and you have it 24/7, that's 4,000 something hours a year. That's $175,000. You're not paying benefits.
4,000 hours a year.
How many hours?
2920.
2050.
No, we're talking 24 hours a day.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
See what I mean? It's not, I started with the 2982, but it's not that.
One person.
It's
covered.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
One more part-time. Gotcha. So it's not one FTE.
So I don't know that, I think it's more significant than,
Well, and if you look at their budget, I mean, they have $1 million budgeted in wages, and so far this year, we've spent 600,000.
we got how much
We're up
left?
to a month and
2
a half.
months?
But I didn't increase it.
I'll look.
Lindsay, that's because it took us so long to try to get people hired, right? That there's excess money in there because of wages, from wages.
Probably only went, we had a full-time position open that we filled in, I could tell you, October.
Well, we would have spent more money if we didn't have somebody here. We'd have been covering it with overtime either way, so the wages would have
That's
been the
true.
same,
Overtime is
time and a half, so.
hot.
Well,
So our biggest increase is switching over to the ambulance billing service. There's $50,000 to cover having that ambulance, switching over to using Gold Cross to do the ambulance billing. So that one is one of the additional costs that stands out.
Wouldn't that be recovered a little bit in the revenues though? Because they feel, I thought that part of the selling point was that they could produce more revenues.
more efficient.
Uh-huh.
I remember hearing
And
that.
it should be kind of a wash, because it wouldn't make sense to spend 50,000.
Well, by the time
Actually,
Shari's
maybe
done,
Karen.
we've been paying part of Shari's too, so that'll go away, right?
Not all of it. She said she's still gonna have things to do. She has have other billing systems that she's not billing from, but she's still collecting on and sending statements and
Yeah, so Gold
Shelley's
Cross.
wages we cut out because it was Shelley and Shari both working a little bit. So
Gold-
we did cut out a little,
Yeah,
but
Gold Cross, from my understanding, is not taking over our previous ambulance billings. They're only taking over from what we started.
January 1.
So we do have to try and collect on that. This is something where we can go through the revenue estimates. I will openly admit I was more conservative on this one. Just because there's the change in the ambulance billing where we can't bill for supplies. It's now just a $200 flat per time that that they would be eligible to bill for supplies. I did increase the write-offs for insurance. That's a pessimistic side of me that that goes along with, I'm not sure Medicare and Medicaid are gonna be as faithful in paying some of those things. We can totally consider those numbers. The mileage could be underestimated. I was going off of some of where our current year stuff is. We might be just a titch low off on that one. So there's a few adjustments in here that we can discuss and consider making.
Does anybody have any concerns about the income? I'm not.
Not either.
I mean, you're being conservative and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
On the income side, we got questions on the expense side that we really need to.
Yeah, I'd rather err on the side of income and then go beat it, but be conservative. And if that's kind of the approach you've taken, then I'm not concerned about
That's
that.
where the revenues came from.
Yeah, I mean, looks good. Looks good to me anyway.
So should we just kind of walk down through this and if there's any questions, we can maybe have Lindsay or
Maybe
Curtis?
just the ones that are just the big change,
Yeah,
game changers.
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like, planning and zoning is 31% difference in the budget, 120 grand. Can we go over that?
Yeah, you're talking 1052?
We are
We're,
talking
well, on this sheet here that we have,
You got
the
the-
summary sheet,
Planning and zone, oh, yeah, yeah.
planning and zoning,
119,
that on in the
450
budget, you know?
difference.
added code enforcement officer.
So that means that you took them from the police department and moved them
Yes.
into there, right?
Yes.
So that's one question I had was, the police went up, they requested a significant amount, but then we also dropped an officer, so that really,
Did it drop off that one?
well, it dropped off of it, yes.
Did the police budget get adjusted for the move of that employee?
You want to jump down to the police and, Dustin, do you want to come up and help with Lindsay and?
What page is police on, do you know?
1054 is page.
23 out of 121.
23?
PDF
Thank you.
is where it starts.
So we got a difference of $353,550. Lindsay, and can you guys kind of walk through that a little bit? I think we went through it earlier today, and I think I understand it, but wouldn't hurt to go through that one more time, and so everybody understands what's going on.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not sure how they did the code enforcement thing. We weren't really in the loop on that. Miscommunication, I don't know. But I don't know if we got credited that back to the budget, so we now have an open allocation, or if they just absorbed that on the city side. So you just absorbed it? Okay.
So what was the answer? Do you have an open allocation?
Apparently not.
So that $353,000 increase is for everybody less the one officer that's moving over to,
City side, yeah.
So, as I understand it, we have step increases. Dustin, can you explain?
Yeah, so just like I presented before, this is a necessary adjustment to stay up with the market out in Box Elder County. Both Brigham as well as the county sheriff have made that adjustment. And for us to stay competitive in the realm of what they're paying, we would need to make the appropriate adjustments for that.
Wasn't it in the tune of 250?
It was,
Where's the
and-
358 coming
Yeah,
from?
good point, Bo, and I'm glad you brought that up. So we calculated based on the last merit increases that were approved. Lindsay, being more cautious, went back before that, and that's where some of that confusion came in. So, does that make sense? I think Lindsay could probably explain it better, because we went back and forth, because that was the ask. Me and Lieutenant Gailey spent a lot of time on that, and then she's like, well, our numbers weren't, yeah.
So they had looked at it, we have a pay scale for specifically the PD, a step scale. So they were looking at as, this is what you would be paying out this year to our officers without this extra increase. They were looking at the wages that would have been budgeted at their steps that they would have gone to this year. Whereas we're seeing it from last year's budget versus this year's budget. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
there's an amount you
projecting,
would have been paying regardless based on the approved pay scale from last year. And then they're increasing that pay scale too. So you would have had an increase anyway this year. It wouldn't have been $353,000, but it would have been, I should have done the math.
The
on
cost of
what it would
living,
have been,
the
but
cost of living part.
Yeah, cost of living adjustments to those pay scales. And everyone advances on their anniversary date to those new steps that they,
The big one was the step increases, 185,000 or so of that, 353, and then cost of living increase, and then the cost of insurance and benefits. Yeah, those are the three, weren't they, that we were talking?
yeah. Yeah, and our ROA.
What is the arrangement with benefits is it across the board the same for all city employees?
yeah, but it's based on wages. So like your retirement is based on how much you're being paid. Your health
Correct.
insurance would be the same. That
Health
it's a 10%
insurance.
increase across the board, yes. But like what we pay for workers' comp goes up 'cause it's based on wages.
Correct.
Retirement goes up.
Yeah, URS.
And your FICA.
Yeah, oh yeah,
taxes.
taxes will go up because you're paying
FICA,
people more.
yeah.
You gotta pay more taxes.
So Lindsay, I'm still trying to swallow. So what you're saying is if we saw an actual number between 2025 budget and 2026, that actual number would be higher because we approved the step up. You're basing the budget off of actuals.
No, what they were looking at is the amount that would have been budgeted for fiscal year '26
Prior to the step up.
Step scale is what they went from, and then the increase to the increased step scale was the 250,000.
Correct.
Have any other questions for Dustin or Lindsay on this?
That makes sense, Lyle.
I'm not following.
So it, maybe a different way of saying it. The 250,000 increase that was presented was an increase regardless of what happened with wages. And Lindsay was showing to them that their 250 did not include the step increase that was, that
The cost of living,
caught, well, it's more like a
Performance.
step increase for officers, isn't there like a step as they go between years? Is
Correct,
like what
yeah.
you're
On their
saying.
anniversary date, they're eligible for an increase.
So they were saying they want all of that step increase plus another $250,000.
Yeah, the step increase is based on experience, education, things of that nature. We obviously want the best and brightest, and we want to develop people so they stay. So a lot of departments have moved towards a step scale, and let's say you started today, you'd be the lower end of the scale. After you complete probation, you're going to bump up. If you get specialized training such as FTO, things like that, you're going to bump up with time on. Then you go Officer 2, Officer 3, and then from there, you'd have to promote to like a sergeant position. And that's pretty standard with some of our competitors around.
But it just happens on a date, they don't have to,
Their anniversary date is when they would reach.
but it's not a thing that you have to say they're ready for that, or?
No, they have
Oh,
to,
yeah,
they have to,
be
yeah.
approved, yeah.
It's in our policy. They have to meet certain requirements. Some of them are education, time on, things like that.
I have a list and I reach out to Chief Cordova when it's someone's turn to
Close.
move up and ask if it's approved.
What are some of them prereqs that you're giving them? You mentioned a couple, but,
Sure.
I mean, do they have to have so many post out? You explained to me how they're getting these raises.
Yeah, so it's basically education, for instance, that can help you get to the next level sooner. Time on, experience, so if you're a 5-year guy, you're obviously gonna have the opportunity to promote into like an Officer 2, Officer 3. It's just a ranking system based on performance requirements such as extra knowledge in maybe investigation, being a part of a specialty such as SWAT team, detective, things like that. just essentially creating a career path where they continue to strive to get more education and experience that benefits the department as well as the city. And then once they hit those certain levels, we also evaluate their performance and their evaluation. So as long as they don't have any major write-ups and they've met those standards, they'd be eligible for that increase at that time.
And if they're not eligible at that time, say they had a write-up, is it gone for a year? Is it gone for 6 months?
Yeah, it depends on if it's a major write-up or a major violation. We all make mistakes, so we're trying to be understanding. But with a major write-up, generally, they wouldn't move up to the step. And in fact, if they didn't meet those requirements for the step they're currently at, say Officer 3, our highest paid officer, and they're not meeting the standard, they can actually go back. And we cleared that all through Dustin, legal, things like that.
Are those step increases a set amount?
Yeah, it's on a scale, so we built a scale, and I could get you guys a copy. We went over it in the presentation. I'm sure Lindsay could pull it up, but
Oh, it's fine.
yeah.
In my industry, when I worked at the hospital, we went through the evaluations, we went through these types of things. But then at the very end, it was determined, this is how much money is available for wages throughout the whole corporation.
Sure.
And then they would come back and say, okay, you're allocated a certain percentage in your area. It feels like that we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot by allocating all of this money when we really don't know how much we've got coming in, or if we've got some bad times coming on or whatnot. It feels like I'm feeling we're getting behind the 8 ball right now.
Yeah, and see, I would say it's the opposite of that. And part of that is some of the most successful departments established that scale to create a path for growth within the department. You know, as I've said, if we lose somebody or they feel stuck, they're gonna go to another agency. We've already invested 150 grand, 2 years of time, and then say Brigham pays them $2 more an hour because they have a step scale and they have that path. We've just washed our time of 2 years and that $150,000 investment. And it's really competitive in law enforcement right now. I hate coming to you guys and ask for more because you've been so good to us. I wouldn't do it unless it was absolutely required. And as you know, I've beat it to death at this point. We go through capital, we go through all these things we would need to do our job. It all perils when we don't have good people in those positions, because that's what it boils down to, is having people make the right decisions. And if we start to sacrifice on our quality and we get one bad decision, there goes $5 million from our insurance instantly. So I think it's critical. We want to have the best. I refuse to compromise on quality when it comes to this much liability, such as law enforcement. So I'd say you're going to get an ROI. We've seen it statistically as well with what we've been doing compared to what we did prior. They're making a positive impact. And
What are the benefits packages
Roll to the third.
for comparative like departments? You know,
Yeah.
that we're competing against. Are they also paying? Are we 90%? Is that what it is?
yeah, we're shooting.
Which is
for-
extremely high. I want to make sure we're apples for apples on when we're talking compensation packages and,
Yeah.
and comparing side to side. You know.
Yeah, I love that. Of course, I'm gonna agree with you on that. We're not trying to beat the highest paying, which is Brigham. We're just trying to stay in the realm of the county. This year, I'd like to match the county so we can
Yeah.
not lose employees to them. And this would put us where we're matching them. They're not trying to beat Brigham either. They're
I know.
just-
What are their? Do you know if their benefits packages are similar to ours?
Yeah, I don't have all the
Because at,
information.
at the end of the day, benefits are compensation in a different form, right? And where we're high, I just want to make sure we're comparing an apple to an apple. If we just compare salary and that's it, where salary plus benefits,
Yeah, no.
that's the whole package,
The
right?
URS would be the same, right?
Yeah, URS is
So
the same.
that's
As far
their
as
set.
insurance, I think,
Unless they've picked up more than we did for our tier twos.
I'm not.
Might have picked it all up, but.
I'm
it's
not
similar.
sure. I think we're pretty darn close to the county. As far as Brigham, I don't know. I think we might edge them out a little on health insurance. Do you recall that, Skylar?
I know we have in the past, I don't know this year, I can find out.
Yeah. And then I'm not sure what Brigham does with their benefits or how they compare pound to pound with us.
Well, and I have a question, if it's okay, not specific to police related, but with the benefits at 90%, is that a pretty common
Well,
threshold? It just out in government it is? Okay.
We've got people
Well-
out there that still pay 100%, which blows my mind. But
yeah, but the national average is right around 75%.
That's what I thought.
And so to say that we're high, we really are. I mean, we provide a high benefit. And I know it's an elephant in the room. I'm sorry. But it's a place for some cost savings too.
I have to ask, when you can't suck blood out of a turnip, and so I'm trying to figure out where and 10% increases on benefits is high. That's a lot. It's expected, but it is compensation. And so I'm just making sure that we're accounting for that. The bigger we get, the more of a factor that becomes. And so that 90% is a big deal. And I just want to make sure that we're keeping our eye on that and recognizing it for compensation as it is.
And the peer groups that we have, it would be nice to know sort of where those peer groups are. County and Brigham City and some of the other.
Yeah, and I could speak for the county, as my wife works for the county, and it was really close, but I think we edged them out a little on some health insurance stuff. That was last year. Things changed. So I'm not sure where we're going to be at next year, but I agree. I think that is a huge benefit, and it's something we could communicate to our guys as long as we're in the realm. Problem is, right now, we're really not in the realm, and that's what I would like to see adjusted.
the county pays for people to not take their insurance, which we've never offered.
Yeah, which I think is great too. And not everybody takes our insurance.
I know that there's other, thinking of Hiram. Hiram, if, in Public Works, if you don't take their insurance, they pay you about 50% of it, of what you would be paying, and they
Yeah.
just throw that into a 401.
But if they don't take it now, we don't pay nothing, right?
Correct.
Right.
I mean, it'd be a huge incentive. I mean, for the sake of tonight, that's not what I'm asking.
Right, but I'm
But
saying.
I think it's a great idea.
Benefits, very.
Taking the night, there's just not enough money for the whole thing, to tell you, you know what I mean?
So I just ran, we have a salary survey system we use that has benefits also. So Box Elder County pays 90%. Brigham City hasn't updated since 2022, but at that point it was 80, but whether they've changed or not. Centerville's 95%, Clinton's 100%, Farmington's 100%, Holiday's 90%.
Are there lower ones?
Brigham City was 75, didn't you say?
80,
80?
I could text their chief right now and find out for you.
85, Heber City. North Ogden 90.
So we're right there.
I did a little bit of research just to kind of see, and I came to the 75% number too that you did, and I could go back that up or whatever, but not discrediting this.
Yeah, 85% is the lowest I see. Wasatch County does 85, and I think Heber was 85. The rest are 90 to 100.
Which it's a lot more comfortable to not say anything, by the way. I'm only saying it because it needs to be said. So.
Right.
All right.
How many employees in the police department?
Right now, I guess minus Greg, what are we, 20 now or 21?
21, 4 of those are Garland employees,
Yeah, which is another huge savings to our city.
plus 2 secretaries.
Have you been talking to Garland? Are they,
they're on-
are we going to be peers as far as,
Correct, yeah. As you know, that was a problem of the past. We've since remedied that, and they're fully supportive of it. We presented that, or Lieutenant Gailey presented that to their council, and they were supportive. Originally, we had considered just trying to come underneath, and Actually, their council was very supportive of a match with the county, just so we don't lose people, because they recognize the cost involved in that.
How many police officers over from Garland that gets paid from Garland?
4.
4 out of the 21.
Correct, and I'm glad you brought that up, Lyle, because we're considering asking for another contribution with their projected growth with the new development and their new housing. They're right up to where it's time, they're probably gonna need to add to that. So that'll probably be our project for the upcoming year.
Now, I need to ask this question because someone asked it to me and I didn't have the answer.
Sure.
Okay. They said, when they looked at I honestly don't even know who it was. Okay. But they said that it looked like the salary bump ups really helped the upper scale, but it didn't really help the police officers themselves.
Yeah, so
Or did it not?
It-
How would you answer that question?
I'd say it helps both, but it does incentivize people with more experience to stick around. At the entry level, we're pretty comparable with other departments where we're starting people. It's the 1 to 2 year cops. From there, you start to see us fall behind, all the way up to like sergeants. We were pretty far behind in that category. And our goal is to retain our most experienced people, because for any company, you'd argue that's your most valuable people, and it's also who train the new employees. What I don't want to do is continue to do that cycle of we hire somebody, we get them to sign our contract, they do 2 years, they're like, oh, I can go make $4 more an hour as an officer 2 at Brigham or the county. They leave, and then we have to hire a new guy, start at officer 1. Fiscally, I think it's irresponsible because we're basically training people for other agencies. And then they don't have to spend the 2 years of time and that initial cost and investment. So that's the way I would answer that question.
Curiosity, did we lose anybody to wages this past year?
Not yet. There has been ongoing discussions. Basically, every time we have a council meeting and we start to talk about it, I'm feeding information back to my guys to let them know, like, hey, we're working on it. We're trying to come together and find a result. I did have one person recently put in with the county, and I don't know if they're gonna end up leaving or sticking around. I know a lot of people are waiting to see what happens next. I think we have a really good culture out here, and we have people that want to stick with our department and our city. And you know, credit where credit's due. You guys have continued to take care of them when we've had asks, and I think there's a lot of faith in the city, and I want to keep that momentum going. And as I've said, you know, Wes, I wouldn't be asking you guys unless it was important. I mean, it's the last thing I want to do. It sucks. And I know you guys are in a tough position, and we're trying to make things work. And in that spirit, we did go through the budget again. We tried to find some more money to cut. We also are willing to compromise on some of those capital things like that, because none of that really matters if we can't keep our people.
I think I'm just trying to swallow. We went from 250 to now 350 plus the 119 if we're comparing, you know, what the ask was. So
Yeah.
that's a 470 instead of 250 is a pretty big thing to swallow, and I'm just trying to
Sure.
wrap my head around it, you know. So
Yeah.
hopefully don't feel.
No, you're good. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
here,
just-
I work for you guys. I want to answer the questions. All I can tell you, Bo, is we've been behind for quite some time, and we've been inching our way to make those adjustments on our staffing and our pay. We take on one problem at a time because we don't have all the money in the world. We came together and we did a huge tax increase to increase our staffing to get it competitive. And now that's the other part of the pie, is now that we have appropriate staffing, we need to fill and keep those allocations full. And the way we do that is by paying competitively.
What can we expect in the future next year?
I wish I could tell you, and I'd love to say, hey, we're good, you give me this, we're solid for life. In talking to the sheriff, Brigham's kind of the wild card. They have more money than everybody else, and who knows?
Or no?
I was told that they're pretty stable and there's no incentive. I can tell you the county, from talking to the sheriff, it doesn't sound like they're gonna get any adjustments in the next year at least. They had to really push for this to get competitive to some regard with Brigham. I think we'll be stable for a bit, but I can't promise anything because this economy's been dynamic and this field has been dynamic. I mean, It is a wage war. I don't want to get into that game. If we lose people to other agencies, I'm not the guy that's going to be like, okay, when we get a raise, we'll get them back. I saw a lot of that when I worked in Salt Lake, and cops stop being cops and they start almost acting like mercenaries where they're jumping different agencies to make a buck more here and there. I don't want to get into that game. I want people that are loyal, but that goes both ways. You know, we take care of them, they take care of us. But I think we'll be stable for the next year, hopefully longer.
I think the big picture is what concerns me. We move forward with this and we do this, but we have a whole bunch of other departments that are starting to feel like they need to be made whole.
Sure.
And so, boy, this could really be a big snowball, or a snowball starting anyway down the hill. And I don't know that we can take the momentum.
I don't either. I don't know
And,
where.
and that's my concern, unless we make some drastic changes to our revenues. I'm so scared right now.
Yeah, and when I presented to you, council members, I gave you a couple options on how we can get ahead of that problem. And some of it does involve like looking at sales tax more or looking at raising tax rates until we get more businesses. I would not be doing my job if I didn't try to get ahead of our problems, because I don't want to be in a retroactive position where we have a lot of problems now and we're losing people and we're asking you for an emergency adjustment. I want to get ahead of that. That's happened in other cities. I can give you a couple examples, and it's not a pretty place to be. And one of the most prudent ones that I saw following the riots in Salt Lake was Salt Lake City. Your cops' salaries went up somewhere around $30,000 for every individual cop, and they're paying six figures for cops nowadays. And that was as a result of losing 40% of their staff in an instant. And a lot of that was the lack of support from the city and then competitive wages, but more than anything, it was the lack of support, not feeling supported. So I just want to stay out of that game altogether. I know it's a big ask, and if we got to compromise on vehicles, if we got to compromise on capital, whatever we can do, we're willing to do. But I feel like it's very important that we make the adjustments so we don't lose people.
I have a question. Well, this would be for Curtis. Okay, so in our RDA, we're talking about where additional revenue sources could be coming from in the future. The RDA, how long do we have before we start recognizing some of the funding, some of the property tax revenue from the, say, RDA number 2, the downtown RDA and that kind of thing? Are we talking 10 years,
It was just
5 years?
extended, and I thought it,
Extended by 2 years,
and that went,
17,
so that took it out to what,
17 years total.
17, and when was it started?
2016, we looked the other day,
So
and it
it's
was
like,
further
it's
along than I
like
was
20,
thinking.
it's like until 2033 or 2032.
Or until that balance is paid back? Or am I thinking right on that?
It,
It's
It-
either 17 years or the 4.1 million or whichever
I
occurs
looked at that
first.
contract, and I think we got 7 years left on it.
7 years?
And so the question is, how quick,
2032.
with the increase in real estate taxes that are coming in, how quick does the developer get paid back, and what's the excess? That's what your question is.
That's
is what-
kind of where I'm getting at.
What's the excess? Right now, it's up in the air.
What's the idea behind that question? Just curious.
Well, property tax revenue.
And
know,
transferring
once we
that to
pay
the
off-
general fund to be able to utilize, is that the
Well,
idea?
So once a development agreement.
Yeah.
Let me back up. I want to make sure I use the right terms.
I see what you're saying.
When you're inside of a redevelopment agency.
Yeah.
And you have a development agreement with the other entities to retain their property taxes to reimburse a developer, that agreement has an expiration date. And upon the expiration date, then the value of the incremental value of the property, the base property is already in our system. The incremental value that was added by that development agreement comes back into your normal property tax base as new growth.
Right.
And so you get 100% of the city share. Now, Right now, we've got a few other entities like the school district and others that are participating in that. And they're gonna get their share. And so when you look at the RDA, you can't just take what the property tax is there and say the city's gonna get all of that, because it includes other taxing entities.
School district and
School district's the biggest one.
mosquito abatement, or whatever it is.
They all
Yeah,
get it.
okay.
Whoever participated, I
My-
can't
my
remember
po-
if the county participated in that one or not.
You say,
Either county and
It's either
school
close
didn't, or
then.
school didn't, county didn't. I
There's
can't
still
remember.
5 other items I want to talk about.
I did want to throw this
Okay, so
out
we-
there real quick, and it's more of a city manager question, but one of the ideas Bill had to help fund was that tough fund, and we consequently would be impacted by that, because it would free up city funds, I guess, from operational expenses. I don't know all the details, it's something that Lindsay or Bill can answer for you, but that is something he was excited about as a possible solution.
okay.
Cool.
All right, thanks,
Gentlemen.
thanks, Chief. We wanted to go into a closed session at 6:45. And so let's try to move through some of the, I know Lyle had some additional questions, and so let's try to get as many
I
answered.
said in the city
Yeah,
council
there-
meeting too.
There's gonna have to be some more discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 5 other items here, 2 of them that are related, or maybe not related. Building inspections went up 72,000. What's happening with building inspection?
That was just
Changes has
me
happened.
looking at the actual and what we've paid him so far this year.
So we're paying
This is our
contractually.
third, yeah, our third party.
Which we've also far surpassed our,
Yes, our
our
budget.
budget in income also.
Yeah.
And so that one scales together.
So is it time to hire
Kind of
somebody?
a cost of goods sold, that goes up with
We
it.
tried.
How much
When
are we
Steve
paying
retired, we
building?
tried and got nothing.
Contractual side would be
$153,000?
$150,000.
Wages and benefits.
That's what the contract is being adjusted up to.
Okay, and that's based on actual numbers. And emergency management, what is that?
That's that
So-
new employee.
Yeah, Nate Christensen has been doing our emergency management. We
Okay.
approved that whenever. We were just moving that budget out of the fire department budget and giving him his own. Well, the Chief Jarl would still oversee it, but,
And the senior programming up 42,000.
so that one, she's asking for more employees, part-time. But
Is that
they
for
were,
the Meals on Wheels?
no, senior programming is their, like, front office. They would like 2 receptionists, part-time receptionists, one for the morning, one for the afternoon. And then a janitor. Our janitor that cleans all of our buildings is also cleaning theirs, but he can only dedicate about an hour a day, and that's not enough to clean their kitchen and bathrooms and to the standards they have to have them cleaned. So she was hoping to get a janitor hired that would just be the janitor at the senior center and could spend the 25 hours a week cleaning that rather than all the other buildings too.
If we made a request to have an analysis done on Meals for Wills, how much it cost us and that type of stuff, what am I asking? I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to do.
Get numbers from Jenny? Is that?
Yeah,
I mean, we got income, we've got Bragg that subsidizes. We had rough numbers 3 years ago. That's right. And we figured that we were losing $75,000. And that's without even looking at capital or the cost of the senior center. Who do we make this request to have an analysis done? I think we're losing well over $100,000 a year doing this program.
Could Jenny,
She can get us the numbers, yeah.
she can get us the numbers?
Probably find Mark's spreadsheet or whatever he used the
Just
last time.
update the
Numbers.
spreadsheet.
We probably ought to have somebody do it that is not right in the middle of it.
Well,
This happened last time and we
Yeah.
didn't get numbers. We need to have somebody inside.
but we probably need to know how many meals were served and that sort of thing, right? And we wouldn't know that. Jenny
Well,
would know that.
We've got your financials that's telling us how much income's coming in.
How much
Can't
we've
we do an
spent
analysis
versus
off our
income.
own numbers?
Lindsay and I can look at that and we can request information from Jenny as we need to supplement it. But I just want to make sure I can repeat your request so they get it right.
We need to have an analysis done on Meals for Wills and at the same time, what the capital cost is to us by being able to do Meals for Wills.
So you want to see the revenue that the Meals on for Wheels generates from any source, the fees
From
that they cost
Bragg.
or grants,
And from people who are actually paying for it.
and then the expenses for running the Meals on Wheels.
And especially some of the outlying areas. So,
That are
you
not
know,
paying.
like Garland and Deweyville and
Yeah.
some of the
How many
outlying
are
areas.
residents?
We're basically subsidizing those other communities and,
So the Meals on Wheels is a portion of the senior center.
Correct.
right.
So, but we just want to focus on the meals for.
No, we want to do the whole senior center because I don't know how you can separate the senior
Right.
center from Meals from Wales.
That's what I wanted to clarify. So you want the whole senior center?
Yeah, let's take a look at the whole thing, including capital. I mean, you've got employees, you've got gas, you've got cars going everywhere. Brigham City's got the same problem, and I was told, this is rumor, so I don't know if it's true or not, that they pulled out of it or was thinking about pulling out of it.
That's right.
And we ought to, if we did it at the same time, maybe the other communities would wake up and start paying their portion towards this thing. We're just asking for a break even. And they haven't, we have went out in person and asked them, they're not willing to do it. So I did my own analysis and I figured that we would only lose about 20,000 a year if we just paid for Tremonton citizens that live within Tremonton boundaries.
Right.
And everybody else, let them do what they want to do. If they don't want to help pay, then let them take care of their own seniors. They'll do it 1 year and I'll guarantee you they'll be knocking on the door wanting it again.
Yeah, we can, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the entire senior center, how much revenue they bring in versus how much they're paying out for expenses. And then also factor in the capital that it takes to run that.
Yes.
And
Jenny had that all broke down to how much it costs.
the key thing is to find out how many of our own residents versus other residents also,
O&M is what
right?
we did.
That's a key.
Well, I'm sorry, Bo.
Operational
I
side.
think a key factor to understand is how many of our own residents versus others outside of our
Well,
city
that's what-
limits we're
Yeah,
serving.
that's what
Right.
Jenny had put together.
So we know what our cost is.
Yeah, that would be entirely a Jenny thing.
Okay.
If we wanted to have the, like, in Tremont residents versus non-residents. But, so, okay.
Do you have any questions on that?
I'll need to ask him in the next session. Yeah, I've got a lot of
Let's, look, we're going to take a little hiatus. We're going to take a little break here, go into closed session. And let's see if we can have Curtis, if you can stay, and Lindsay, if you can stay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'll make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second it.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Lyle Vance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, go into closed session.
Well, that one has a roll call vote.